Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Vault podcast featuring Ilya Rubinstein. Today's episode dives into one of the biggest tensions in modern cybersecurity. AI is simultaneously becoming the greatest force multiplier for defenders and the greatest accelerator for attackers. Joining us is Ilya Rubinstein, President and Chief Compliance Officer at Aegis IT Solutions, where he focuses on cybersecurity, compliance, operational discipline, and helping organizations move from reactive IT support to mature security operations. We'll unpack why managed IT is no longer enough, how AI changes the economics of cyber defense and offense, why compliance should be viewed as a growth accelerator, not a checkbox, the operational realities of protecting mid-market organizations, and what real secure AI adoption actually looks like in practice. So today's guest is someone who sits right in the middle of that transformation. Ilya has spent years helping organizations strengthen security posture, operational resilience, and compliance readiness in a world where threats evolve faster than most businesses can adapt. What stood out to me reviewing his work is that he consistently frames cybersecurity not as fear marketing, but as operational discipline. And in the AI area, that distinction matters more than ever. Ilya, welcome to the Vault, and thank you for joining us today.
It's great to be here, honey.
Thank you. So, you talked publicly about how AI is changing cybersecurity, but also how discipline still matters more than tooling alone. What are some companies, or what are most companies, fundamentally misunderstanding right now about AI and security in your perspective?
So there is a very old adage that the more things change, the more they stay the same. And it's never been truer. AI is a tool. It's not this monstrous thing that can do things on its own. It's a tool that people use. It just makes things a lot easier. So it lowers the bar for entry for attackers and defenders alike, but more for attackers than defenders. The challenge is that it showcases are still there. The user is the weakest link, plain and simple. Once you gain somebody's credentials, you're in the system. There is the whole idea of compliance as a checkbox is a path to disaster. There is a reason why these controls are there. You know, in the army, there is an old saying that army regulations are written in blood. In other words, the reason they're there is because somebody got killed by not following them. Same thing, same concept is true here. You know, like I was reviewing a client last week and for SOC 2 compliance, and the they did not know what hardware they had in their data center cages. Like the diagram said one thing, but the reality was different. You
Yep.
know, and it sounds very silly just saying it out loud and hearing it. They're not the only ones. Or when you go into an organization, everyone is an admin. Or when you have user accounts that are still active months, if not years, after people are no longer within the company. All AI does is finds these things better and faster. That's it.
Absolutely. And I think it's a challenge that, as you said, if you're listening, you're not alone. If you have that kind of tool sprawl, that challenge, I mean, I'm literally, I'm going to cover this customer, but every day is a new chart that looks something like this. I'm sure you've seen it, and it's a big disaster. So
Yeah, exactly.
how we're driving operational simplicity is important, and AI is definitely helping us do that. No, so I appreciate that. So, and look, Ilya, so a lot of organizations are still buying security like insurance, right? Very reactive, very fragmented, checkbox driven. What separates companies that are actually resilient from the ones that are just kind of like purchasing products?
They understand what makes a business run. So I have a really good friend of mine, Dimitri. And Dimitri has one of his ventures is a training company, how to sell GTM products to CISOs. And in our conversation, we invariably agree on we agree on a lot of things, but one of the things is CISOs cannot function as the big brother of an organization. They have to function within the organization. Successful security practitioners and successful security leaders First and foremost, have very intimate knowledge about the business workflows, the business processes, what can a company function without, and what would be a death knell for a company if it was ever compromised. If you don't know where your crown jewels are, if you don't know the impact of a compromise, you cannot protect it. The attack surface is too big. If you have to, I mean, what the old adage, right? Offense gets the glory, defense wins the game. Well, how does defense win the game? It's by focusing on protecting a certain key piece. You cannot protect everything at all the time. And all an attacker has to do is find one pinhole and they're in, and that's it. So you have to know what you're doing. But what you're doing, I don't mean cybersecurity. I mean what your organization does. What's important to a car dealership versus a fintech company, versus a software development company, versus a hospital, versus a law firm are very different things. There are
Yep.
similarities, but the crux of it, the core of it, is very different.
That makes perfect sense. And ultimately, understanding that environment, the form factors, the outcomes that you're trying to drive as a business helps shape the operational recommendations in reality. Yeah.
100%.
And Elliot, like you've emphasized, besides this, like understanding, you've emphasized like that, failures often come from weak processes. Let's say you have a process that's fine in terms of like understanding your business. There's a difference between the operations and the technology. So I guess the question I'm trying to ask is like, where do you most commonly see operational breakdowns, right? Once kind of a system is up and running.
Shortcuts. People love shortcuts. We as humans, we want to take the easy way out. What we don't, what we often don't understand is that there is an easy way out short term and there is an easy way out long term. And we need to understand the consequences of each one. And the simplest example I would make is the most, the simplest and most common process in any business, I mean, literally any business across the board, is hiring and dismissal. And these two processes are the ones that go out the window the most. I've seen, like, we have clients that would call us the morning of the person starting, asking for just give them all the access and we'll figure out what they need. No, 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 that's not gonna work that way. Or, hey, this person was fired a week ago. Really? Good to know. What do you want to do
Yeah.
about it right now?
Yeah.
Or we walk into a client and we're like, hey, you have these accounts that forget about the fact you've been paying for licensing for them for the last 2 years. They haven't logged in the last year and a half. Oh, yeah, this was the company C, blah, 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 that left, and we just never. Did you guys, you guys know that they can still log in? What do you
Yeah.
mean? Well, it's an active account. Well, we changed the password. And, but that's, we have operational deficiencies at that level. With AI, perfect example. Wall Street Journal had an article in it this morning. A regional bank in central US had AI access to its proprietary client data and expose it to the public. Well, how did it do that? Well, because with AI, with any kind of tool that accesses your environment, you have defined rights and implied rights. And invariably, like, we have our own vendors. And the one thing that we hear as Aegis is we are one of the very, 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 very few companies that their partner with that actually go through a comprehensive access rights review to give them access to the cloud environments.
That's shocking, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's great that we do it, but
Yeah.
I mean, what do you mean? Like, you guys have thousands of MSP partners, and they're like, we're one of the 3 or 4 or 5 that actually do this. Like, are you kidding me? Like, why aren't the other 1,997 do that? And why don't you tell them to do that? It's
Yeah.
scary. It's very scary.
It is scary. I laughed when you said something because it happens, way too often where you're talking to a CISO. I mean, this individual is responsible for the security posture of the entire organization. And when you're going through a process map and you point at something and you say, oh, great, like you're using this or that, you say, tell me a little bit more about that. It's not like necessarily if they've been using it or not. Like you said, a lot of times it's like, I don't even know what it does. I don't even know
And
why
it's
it's
like,
there, and it's like, we just have to refresh it. It's up for refresh. Like, okay, why are you going to
yeah,
pay for this? So,
yeah,
yeah.
no, like, we need to buy this bigger server. Why? Well, but why? Maybe it's a good time to revisit how you guys do things, or we need to give access to these people in this country. I'm like, you sure you want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. You're only expanding your attack surface, right? You're increasing your risk posture for sure.
Exactly.
Um, So, Elliot, one of your posts said something that resonated with me and what we do here at Agentics. So, you said compliance is an enabler and not a cost center, right? Most companies still don't think that way, as we established. Walk us through how mature compliance actually helps organizations close larger customers and accelerate growth. So, about enablement, not about, you know, just basic security. So,
So a big part of compliance is buying and awareness by your senior board members of that compliance and of these security technologies. So when that is in place, when your salespeople are out there talking to these large customers, they answered compliance questions as a matter of fact. In sales, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. When they see that at the salesperson level, compliance is and security is a foregone conclusion. It's matter of fact. That checks off so many boxes and that elevates your posture so much that a lot of the questions are not even asked of you anymore. They're already presumed. And then when you are having these conversations, these review calls, they assume that you have your things together. They don't assume that you are failing. And it's a much easier conversation to have. It shortens your sales cycle, and it truly enables a company to really punch above its weight class. And we've seen it with a lot of different clients. We have clients all over the world that we help them with their compliance needs, and we teach their salespeople on how to talk about their SOC 2 compliance, their HIPAA compliance, their FedRAMP compliance, and we make them live it and embrace it. And when that happens, and they talk to then their conversations become different. Because but then when they're asked, hey, like, so security compliance, they're like, oh, look, we get our IT, they phishing test us all the time. We go through these exercises all the time that, pretend that we get hacked. And, we do pretty well. Like once in a while, somebody clicks on the link and they run on top of it. Oh, okay. That's great. It's a very different conversation. Again, you can always tell when you're talking to an amateur versus a professional. Big boys want to deal with professionals. They have no place for amateurs.
yep.
If you
Yep.
if in the other bit of it is because in a lot of companies, compliance is cybersecurity at the very bottom of the list of things they do. It also implies that if your compliance and security are on that matter of fact level, everything else you do is on that matter of fact level. Your quality controls are at a matter of fact level. Your internal and external business processes, your AR, your AP, your service delivery, that quality is matter of fact because your compliance and cybersecurity is matter of fact. And all the Dodge goes, if you want to learn, if you know how good a restaurant is, go check out the bathroom. If the bathroom is perfectly clean, chances are service will be excellent and food will be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So same concept.
Yeah. And I mean, where do you see these organizations with, kind of immature postures, like overcomplicating compliance versus kind of building operational readiness?
I don't. Listen, like the conversation you and I just had before this started, there are way too many players. There are way too many fish in the pond. Somebody will always be there to pick up that morsel, that client. And it doesn't take a lot. We just saw infrastructure get hacked and pay a ransom literally yesterday. That was huge. I mean, what, 9,900 schools? Kids could not
Yeah.
take their finals anymore? And this is the
Education.
second time this happened in like 8 months? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So it's never an if you get hacked. It's a when. Like
Yeah.
a very, and another old cybersecurity adage is there are two types of companies. Companies that know they've been hacked and companies that have been hacked, they just don't know about it yet. So we assume that there is compromise and we have eyes on it. And if you're mature, you do that. If you're just doing it as a checkbox, if you're just doing it just to, we've run into an issue with one of our clients where we found out that the organization that certified them for, it wasn't them, it was a company they were buying, certified them for ISO 27001 compliance. It was basically a paper mill. You pay like a couple $1,000 and you get your certificate.
Okay.
And well, for one good thing is they end up spending a little bit less money on that acquisition than initially planned because we found that out. But the other thing is, well, think about it. You use that certification as a seal of validity. And now you get compromised and you can't recover. Through your compromise, your client gets compromised. And now you're out of business. Because if that happens, if your client gets compromised because of you, you are not doing business with anybody else because word gets out fast,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's what
No one's gonna want to
small
work with you for sure.
and that's what mid-sized businesses really don't understand. Nobody cares about them as a company. Everybody cares about the clients they service. Our clients are bigger than we are. I'm sure yours are as well. So we have to be super careful not to allow that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, to your point, Ilya, and to the breach that happened in education, we're talking about. How do you? So and it's oftentimes you see kind of these weak links along the tools around the processes. Even sometimes like the people in terms of their maturity and understanding of their posture. How do you mitigate, right? Like verticals or segments that might not have the expertise that they need. I mean, this is a real cyber talent shortage that we're seeing today. How do you plug that gap today, right? Do you need that senior level? Do you need the junior level? I mean, how are you seeing the cyber organization change with AI these days?
It's the problem has been the same for decades. And the issue is because there is such a shortage of talent, the barrier of entry into the field is very low. This is not a problem you fix with number of bodies, it's the you fix it with quality. I always said that a cybersecurity professional needs to know everything that an engineer knows and then some. So for example, one of the questions I asked people that apply for jobs with Aegis is what are you good at? And then, okay, this is the technology you work with. When you click a mouse button on this function, explain to me what happens. You know how Outlook works? Fine. When you click the send button, explain to me what happens. Go up and down the OSI model. Or if you know how Word works, when you save a document, what happens in the background? When it's a cloud, when you know Azure, great. You connect to an AVD, what happens? And the person needs to be able to explain to me step by step exactly what happens on the back end. And if they can do that, then they can protect it. If they cannot do that, then they can't. It's it's
And do you
it's as
think that's the
simple as that.
same today? I mean, nothing's changing.
Nothing's
Know the
changed.
steps, know the
Mythos
architecture.
Mythos didn't hack anything. All Mythos did is it showed the vulnerabilities that were there a lot faster than a person did. That's a big thing, but that's not hacking. But right now you have tools out there. They can say that if you have this vulnerability and this vulnerability and this vulnerability, I can string this attack together and I'll be more successful. Okay. But again, 90, what is it? 99% of all the attacks are social engineering. There
Yeah.
are very
Yeah.
few. I mean, the infrastructure breach, I think, from what I understand is they got they fished somebody.
Yeah.
Land Rover was breached last year. It was through a vendor and they got somebody's password. Another big breach that happened a year ago. What I don't remember what the company was, but it was a sub of a vendor
Yeah.
that was a disgruntled employee. It's social engineering. It's plain and simple. The
Yeah.
systems are
Yeah.
there. Like we do pen testing often, and we we find again when we find issues, these issues are there. They're not. This is not something out of the ordinary. Once in a while, you'll find something that's like, listen, like this is the stupidest way to do this. Like when we found that we had a client a few years ago that firewall is running a known bad. Like when you hear about the 48 compromises, the vulnerability that's been around and we've known about it for years and years and years. The patch has been released 3 years ago. It just hasn't been applied. Well, it's like saying Ford built a bad engine because you didn't change the oil for 30,000 miles and the engine seized. I mean, certain things you got to do, like
Yeah.
patch your stuff.
Basics for sure.
It always comes down to the basics. AI is amazing at floating things to the top. It's amazing at showing where the challenges are, where somebody's taking shortcuts, or where somebody's failing to do their job. AI is stupendous at that.
Yeah. And how we evolve based on that feedback is anybody's guess right now. Any opinion on how that plays out? AI is going to tell us everything in the next year or two. What are us
You
as
know,
humans going to really operationalize at the end of the day?
and that's a great point you bring up, right? Every time there is a major change, people start griping about, oh, they're taking jobs away and this and that. I saw an article last week that somebody posted on LinkedIn. The demand for application developers doubled with the advent of AI. It doubled. They can't fill they can't fill the positions.
Yeah, I'm an app developer now. So
No, but
I'm
logically,
joking, but
right?
yeah,
Like software
but hey,
development is a growing field right now, and people thought that AI is going to develop the code, and people realize that no, like it will get you 80% there. Other 20% you got to do it, but the problem is that 20% requires really solid skills. So if you were going by, vibe coding or Google coding or however you want to call it, you can no longer do it. You actually need to understand the logic, and you understand the algorithms and so on and so forth.
yeah,
Same thing in cybersecurity. You have to actually know your stuff. You have to
yeah.
understand what it is you're doing.
Yeah. Now I think like Ilya, this is an important point. The more base knowledge you have, the better off you are, is the theme, right? The more you
100%.
understand the underlying infrastructure, the paths, the risks, what you're trying to do with these things, the better off you are. Same thing in dev, right? With a SaaS platform. That last 20% is a skill that is a rare thing. We're probably upskilling well and people are learning and starting to get there. But my question here is like, if AI is making us as humans lazier, very generally, and doing more for us, what is the motivation besides self motivation to really get into the weeds and understand things, right? And is that insecurity a big risk right now in that people are assuming certain things or relying on AI understanding of things? Or is that a strength? Like, is it a weakness or a strength in terms of the trends that we're seeing? Because I completely agree with what you're saying, but I don't know that 10, 20 years from now, software developer or, a sysadmin or whatever that position is called will know kind of the same layers that we know today.
They don't have to. So let me. When I started in IT, and this was back in late '90s, early 2000s, the A plus, one of the questions on the A plus test would be how many pins on different types of Pentium chips. Now, or which DMA channel corresponds with which IRQ. Nobody cares about the stuff right now. We're beyond that. And in 20 years, we'll be beyond some of the things that we have right now. But there are certain things like I don't need to understand really right now how an IP packet is built up. I do need to understand how that packet is going to flow from one system to another based on the parameters that it's doing it. I think we're in grave danger. Humanity does not need an excuse to be lazy. We're lazy by default. The self motivation, the best motivator is pain. So when I was a kid growing up, I was a very avid martial arts fan, and I've done martial arts since I was like 9 years old. So I remember I was going to this dojo in Brookline, Massachusetts, and our Sensei Torio, was walking around with the bamboo stick. And if you did not jump enough, next time you jump, he would hit you with a bamboo stick at the level that you needed to jump at. You either jump over it or you get your shins hit by a bamboo stick. And you know what? That taught you very quickly that you're actually going to jump high or you're going to be in a bit of pain. If, you stand in your stance, he would take the bamboo stick and he would smack you to make sure that your stance is solid. Pain is a great teacher. Pain does not have to be physical to be a great teacher, but pain is a great teacher. This is why it's okay for kids to stay up into the wee hours of the night to cram for a test, to take the test the following morning. It's okay for kids to skip dinner once in a while to get things done that need to get done. It's okay to feel a little bit of pain because that will teach you how to get what you need to get.
Yep.
I'm where I am because of that pain. I mean, my family came here in 92. We were allowed to bring $400 and 6 suitcases between my parents and me. That's it. That's all we had. That was a really, really good motivator.
Yeah.
Now,
Painful to
it's
figure
painful,
things out. Yeah.
yeah, but it worked. It really worked.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends, I mean, we are in that generation of refugees and immigrants that came to this country. A lot of the people that I know are very successful, they came from the ground up because of those challenges. Challenges is good. Overcoming challenges is good. One of my favorite sayings is you learn nothing from winning. You only learn from losing. The challenges don't make losing a habit. So, you know,
Yep.
but
Fail
people,
fast.
well, fail fast and get up faster, I guess
Yeah.
is the converse, right?
Figure it
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
Yeah, if I mean, when we're on the theme of adages and sayings, so they say smart people learn from their own mistakes, and smarter people learn from other people's mistakes, right? So, what do you think of that? I mean, I guess what I'm
I
getting
think
at is,
I
yeah,
think the way I've learned it is a wise man learns from another's mistake, a smart man learns from their own mistake, and the stupid man never learns.
yeah,
Right. And I agree with it 100%. Like I always tell my guys, I will never fault you for making a mistake. I will get very angry if you make the same mistake twice.
yeah, yeah. That's
So,
fair.
but
So,
again,
I
like
mean,
you have
like
to
in
learn.
your example in your example in the dojo, right? The pain teaches you. If you don't have the instructor or the teacher to deliver that pain in a way for the purpose of teaching, you kind of have to figure it out on your own, right? And in these circumstances, I guess like right now these days you have, the people making the software and the AI, and then you have the people buying it, and then you have the people deploying it and helping in the middle. Where are the teachers? How do we get taught? Like this is the point of this podcast is to share best practices, but at the end of the day, I mean like how do where's the teachers here?
Well, I mean, look, let's say you buy a solution and it was coded with AI. So it looks really pretty. You start implementing it and it's one problem after the next. And the guys that you're on the phone with supporting it can't help you because they don't understand it themselves. That is your pain as a customer. The next time you're going to buy something, make sure people that developed it are actually developed it and did not have Claude or OpenAI or God knows what else do the work for them. From a development perspective, you sold it. Now, instead of spending 5 hours learning, 10 hours coding, and 1 hour supporting, You spend 0 hours learning it, 1 hour coding it, and you're spending 100 hours supporting it, and now you just lost your business. That's pain. And you learned that lesson. And the people in the middle, same concept. Like, know what you're reselling and know who to trust and who not to trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Experience is your best teacher.
How do you differentiate through the noise and the crowded like environment that we talked about, right? How do you come out on top here?
You need to learn which questions to ask and how to ask them. I mean, look, I'm an engineer, right? I'm not a marketer. How did I learn how to look for marketing people and marketing companies? It was painful, was a lot of failures, learn how to ask the right questions. Now, it's still not enough. You'll still, because the people you talk to, they may know the right answers, but now you know a lot better and a lot faster how to differentiate the answer. And then also, where you sold something real or was it a smokescreen? There is a lot of fraud out there. There is a lot of smoke and mirrors out there, and nobody is insured against that. But if you learn what to ask, and AI will help you with that. You can go and ask ChatGPT, I'm looking for this. What questions should I be asking? What should I be paying attention to? And AI will tell you what to do. It will guide you through it. And you run through it enough times, you'll learn real quick.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. Now, you've spoken about customer obsession, right? Refusing to compromise on security standards. I love it. How do you maintain the balance, like commercially, when clients want faster, cheaper, simpler, better? So, how do you kind of manage that commercial process, I guess?
So we don't do cheaper. That's the first thing. You have to value yourself, right? We have a value. We will never be the cheapest vendor. Now, when people looking at the value, we are very often one of the more valuable vendors out there. The refusal to compromise helps us get better customers. So commercially becomes more viable because we spend a lot less time on dealing with unnecessary headaches, mean bad clients, chasing clients for payments. So those headaches we have very few of. We still have them, and you know, as we grow, we'll have more of them. But having these circuit breakers in place allows us to limit them and make it a better. And then, in conversely, what that does is makes it for a much healthier work environment. People are healthier, are happier, and then helps me avoid the headache of attrition. You know, the in this MSP industry, I think the employee turnover rate is something like 33%. Ours is, I would think, 12 right now. And I think it's going to remain that as we grow.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Well, one last question and then we'll wrap up here, Ilya, unless you want to add anything else. But what do you think one thing every CEO should ask their security team tomorrow morning? Their IT or security team, what does the leader of that org ask, or what should they be asking their teams?
So the standard response is what keeps you up at night. But I think the better question would be, what are we doing to make today to ensure that no matter what, our company is still in business tomorrow? Because
Survival, resilience. Yeah, yeah.
but it also like understanding what it goes to the crux of the question of what is important to the company operations. What is a company to the company important to the company's survival? You know, if you are so a great example is the CDK hack that happened a couple of years ago. So CDK is a platform. It's a dealership management solution that a lot of the car auto groups rely on to do their business. They were breached, and people could not use it for about 3 or 4 weeks. Well, people still bought cars and people still sold cars. Why? Because you can still write a paper slip, you can still manually contact the bank, and so on and so forth. So a DMS going down is not that important to an auto group. However, if all of a sudden the auto group's computers were ransomware and the dealership could not actually get into their own systems, that could be catastrophic. So understanding that what a company needs to be able to do to function day to day. And then you need to think progressively, okay, do I have 1 week to weather a storm, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, a year? And then that will help you build your strategy.
Yep. That makes perfect sense. Ilya, viewers that want to find you, what's the easiest way to get in touch?
Um, Either email Ilya at aegisitsolutions.net, LinkedIn, Ilya Rubinstein, or our website, aegisitsolutions.net. I'm pretty responsive, pretty easy to reach. And if you guys can make it to our spam filter, that means you're legit, and I'd be happy to talk to you.
That's awesome. I love it. Great. Well, Ilya, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that AI doesn't necessarily like remove the need for operational discipline. It amplifies the consequences of lacking it, right? Organizations that
Indeed.
win won't necessarily be the ones with the most tools. They'll be the ones with the clearest systems, strongest governance, fastest adaptation cycles, and highest levels of trust. And those elements will essentially allow you to survive and be resilient in this rapidly changing environment. So, really appreciate the insight and coming on and joining us today. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks.